It's Kevin Kelly and Casey Thompson together again for another in ring wrestling podcast. We welcome you to the broadcast. Casey, obviously, sometimes we talk about things that we want to talk about, other times, news kind of dictates what we are going to talk about. And I think both of our uh, to do a show all about Hulk Hogan would not be a surprise considering that you used to work with the
Right.
guy. So
Yeah.
news of his passing, and we immediately, hey, did you hear about Hogan? Yep. I guess I know what we're talking about this week. So
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
yeah. So how are you? And how has the news of Hulk's passing hit you?
Um,
Be
I'm
honest.
never surprised. I'm never
Right. Me
surprised
neither.
with anything in the wrestling business anymore. Um, but to say that it hasn't, I mean, everyone in the entire world is talking about it.
Yeah.
It gives you a perspective of how really big Hulk Hogan was. I mean, from so he's like I think there's a couple people like that, and I would say I could be wrong, but there's about 3 wrestlers are at that level. Ric Flair would be one of them,
Yep.
Hulk Hogan was, and then The Rock. Those
Right.
3 guys are all in the entertainment, the sports world, um, pop culture, everything in yeah, it's just I mean, there was so much even still today, there's still everyone that's what they're all talking about
Yeah.
in
We.
every
It's.
facet of news, anything. Yeah, it definitely catches you off guard when you realize that anything can happen, but when it happens, you're like, oh man, wow,
People that we're
it's
close to, when they
right,
pass away, it's one reaction. But hearing about a
yeah,
wrestling death of somebody, your age, my age, around our age, younger, I'm kind of
right.
desensitized to it. I hate to say it. I think a lot of us
No,
in
no,
the
I am
industry
too.
are.
Yeah,
But again, when somebody passes, and I always use that kind of like plus or minus 85. If you make it to 85, you can say, that was a good run. You know,
right.
so Hogan at 71, but certainly a lot of miles, and sounds like something went wrong with his most recent surgery. He's had a whole bushel basket full of surgeries over the last few years.
Right.
Sound like there was some complications. Those things happen, and he and that was it. So
Yep.
obviously, as somebody who grew up in Florida, but somebody who was very much
Mm,
an NWA guy, um, I was on the wrong side of history because I was like,
mhm.
ugh, Hulk Hogan, ugh,
Right, right.
man, everybody loved that dude.
Yeah. There's a lot of haters out there still. I mean, I've been seeing people talking about, this and that. He's a
Oh, what a bunch
racist,
of
all these kind of
jerks.
marks. Basically, my response to all them is just go to hell.
Yeah.
Just go to hell because you know what? In the end, everyone does. No one's perfect. First of all, everyone does something, says something wrong in their life. If you're not, there's no one ever lived that's never did nothing wrong. First of all, so, but look how much good he did. Now everyone can say, the whole I don't know, rib or whatever. Oh, one of Hogan's guys, Hogan. Oh, he's going to bring all of his boys in. You know what? That's a hell of a friend because
Mm-hmm.
everywhere Hulk Hogan went, he always made sure he brought his clique in, which would be, of course, Jimmy Hart. And you have, Brutus Beefcake. You're going to have the Nasty Boys. I mean, and the list goes on and on. He'll have, like, they call them all the old timers. But you know what? How many people have that kind of stroke to be able to dictate, I want to bring all these guys in, you're going to pay them this kind of money. And, that's a hell of a friend.
That is a
I wish
great
I had a
friend.
few friends like that.
And but to when someone dies that you disagree with, um, to publicly go out and say you have a disagreement about something that they did.
Right.
For someone to have that level of venom, Hogan didn't know you. Hogan didn't know
Right.
that you hated him because he used the N word on a recording when he was talking about his, not wanting to have certain people date his daughter. You
Sure.
you can hate the sin, and you don't even have to love the sinner. Just have
Right.
no opinion about it. Oh man, this
Right.
bad piece of shit guy died. Ah, well, good. But that's the end of it. Now, if you're
Right.
someone like Jim Cornette, who's publicly gone on record and says, I'm going to go piss on Vince Russo's grave, well, okay,
Right.
now you've set the mark. But that's a personal grudge. That's a personal vendetta. They knew each other, and Cornette hates him.
Right.
So that's a
Even if
different.
you take someone like Cornette that is very opinionated about everyone in the wrestling business, I can guarantee you Cornette would still say, you know what, his good outweighed the bad when it come
I
to Hulk
will
Hogan.
definitely go back and be listening because I want to hear what Jimmy had to say. I want to hear what
Yeah.
because those of us in Titan Tower at that time in '95 were
Hmm.
96. We were looking to kick Hulk Hogan any way we could. Billionaire Ted and the Nacho Man and the Huckster. We all
Oh
thought
yeah.
that that was great and rolled our eyes at his matches and rolled our eyes at everything that he said and did in WCW. But there is no denying, Casey, to your point, that that
Yeah.
guy was loyal and
Oh yeah.
he worked his ass off to make sure that things were the way that he wanted them to be,
Yeah.
and even putting himself at risk. I've gone on the WWE YouTube channel and I've sat and watched a lot of Hogan matches over the last couple of days.
Right.
Um, again, you see his work when he's younger against the Iron Sheik. You see the match, WrestleMania 5 with Savage. We'll leave 18 and The Rock out. That's a separate conversation. But I watched a match that he did from Bash at the Beach, I think it was, with teaming with Dennis Rodman against Carl Malone and DDP.
Wasn't a bad match.
Well, it it was only bad because of the risk of injury that
Right.
Hogan put himself in.
Hmm.
He had a partner in Dennis Rodman who was all over the place, couldn't stand up. Every time they would do anything, he was falling down and causing Hogan to misstep. Plus, he's
Right.
working with Carl Malone, the greenest of the green,
Right.
and he's there for everything, guiding the ship, commanding telling everybody what to do and where to be. DDP did his part as well, but
Right.
Hogan was having to traffic cop his partner and didn't know where
Yeah.
his partner was going to be. He at any time could have said, I'm out. See you later. Over the top rope DQ. We're done. And nobody would have blinked an eye and he wouldn't have gotten fired. But he put himself in that situation at
Yeah.
40 something years old.
Right. That's being the master of making chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah. So you look, okay,
I
so he worked with his guys and he gave his guys spots. Good friend. Thank you. But he
Yeah.
also had an inner circle of people that he could trust
Yeah.
to do things to get as much when you're that advanced and you're that big of a star. Um, you want things, you want to control what's controllable,
Right.
right? You want to make your
Yep.
spares if you're a bowler, right? Um, and you can control things when you have people with you who can help control things. Um, did Hogan ever get? Here's a question for you, Casey. Did Hogan ever get hurt? Did he ever get injured?
I don't think I've ever seen him get injured. I mean, there's injuries from, all the years of wrestling, but
Right.
per se, no, I don't think he's out because of an injury, like got hurt in the ring. No, I'm not familiar with ever seeing one like that. Seeing something like that,
If you think about it, isn't that kind of
which is
amazing?
remarkable. Yeah, it's remarkable. Yeah.
A main event guy who did, you know, listen, wasn't on the Tito Santana schedule. He wasn't
No.
flying. He wasn't the main event of the B or the C town. He would main event the A town probably 3 nights a week,
Right.
and that was the extent of his schedule. Plus, he's doing media and everything else involved. Um, never got hurt, never
Yeah.
was injured, never had to forfeit the title, never worked hurt, never had to miss a significant amount of time, left to go do different things. But I just find that remarkable. You look at his
Well, he
size
actually,
and how he
yeah,
bumped.
yeah, he would definitely took well control of his bump card as the old
Right.
timers back in, you have only so many bumps to take, so your bump card, and he did. He only, he bumped when it was necessary, so
So he was a
that probably
smart
had a
worker.
lot to do with
So
it.
he was a
Yeah.
smart, good
Oh yeah.
worker
Yeah. Absolutely.
with the trained eye. A trained eye that I have now that I didn't have in '96. I'm watching in awe at Hogan's mastery. He
Right.
wasn't good in my opinion. He was great. He did
I
he did
watched.
did what he did. He did it very well, but he
Yeah.
was always in the right position for everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. His timing was impeccable.
You,
I watched the match from New Japan, and he was very green then against Abdullah the Butcher.
okay.
You ever seen that?
I think so.
I r I really I mean, he is wearing the black trunks with the Japanese lettering on it, the silver boots. I enjoyed the match. I mean, Hogan was very green, and you could tell, but it was a good match. I was like,
Yep.
I put it this way, I watched the whole thing, which doesn't I didn't fast forward through any of it.
And so
So that
he made his pro debut in '79, and he
yeah,
was in Japan by '81.
yeah, this was '82. It was a main event match with Abby for New Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for New Japan Pro Wrestling in
Mhm.
1982. A green 3-year American guy, and
Right.
everybody in Japan had his number. They knew him. And I'm not saying the fans, but I'm saying the boys in the office. And why?
Right.
Because the famous story with Hiro Matsuda breaking his leg in training. And I asked Tiger Hattori, please tell me, did was that was that a work or did Matsuda really break his leg? And I swear to God, he did this case. He looked around and he said, yeah, man, that's a shoot. He broke his leg.
And he came back after he healed.
6 months and was like this, was all gassed up.
Right. Did
So
you ever meet Matsuda or do anything with Matsuda?
never met him. He had passed away before we had the chance to meet. But of course, I know Tiger Hattori very, very well.
I worked a lot of Matsuda used to train a lot of guys. And Hiro Matsuda was good friends with Jerry Gray. And he would bring
Okay,
his guys when they're starting to get ready to get into the ring, he'd bring them over to a Jerry Gray show, and I would end up working them. And
really,
yeah, there was a guy. I think it was I think his name was. It was a big jacked white guy. I think his name was the Samurai Warrior or something like that.
okay,
I worked him a bunch. I worked a bunch of those guys. And Masuda was there, so it was kind of, it was really cool because Hiro Masuda, which, you know, he's a god in that part of the wrestling world.
right. He was never a main event star, either here or there, but he was a very well known, very respected guy,
Right.
and
Yeah.
had his um, and I think obviously the two things that people know the most about Hiro Matsuda, of course, number one is the story of him breaking Hulk Hogan's leg, and number two is when he came back to NWA in '89 as part of the JTEX Corporation. But
And
was a
also he trained
prolific
Lex
trainer,
Luger.
was a prolific trainer, and trained Lex Luger. Probably also had a hand in um, Ron Simmons
Yeah.
and Dewey Robertson,
Oh wow.
that third
The
guy.
missing
Whatever happened
link.
to him? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so those are the things that when you look at when you watch Hulk Hogan, and I had to do this. I am here to admit when I was wrong. Were his booking ideas great? Maybe, maybe not.
Only for
Um,
him.
well, yeah, but isn't that what the people paid to see? Isn't that what people wanted?
Right.
And isn't how many jobs did Roddy Piper do? He he put Bret Hart over, he put Hogan over in tag matches, and that was about it.
Yeah.
He can get beat by anybody. And that was the reason why the match WrestleMania 1 was a single, then it was a tag, and Mr. T wound up getting involved. I watched that again. Holy hell.
Oh,
Hey,
really?
you know what? Mr. T wasn't half bad.
Yeah, that's true.
I hadn't seen that match in forever. You know who's awesome? Uh, Cowboy Bob Orton.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
The only thing you need to see about a wrestler, as far as I'm concerned, is what they do when what you're doing to get in your spot. And he needed to feed up so that Jimmy Snuka could come in the ring and pop him.
Right.
So he bipped somebody in the heel corner and then got up on the ropes. And as he did, he's looking away and almost looks like he's about to fall back, which is part of the sell. So then he pulls himself back, and there's Jimmy Snuka right there. Pow. What an awesome, awesome worker he was. Holy
yeah,
hell. Just incredible. And you watch that match,
yeah.
WrestleMania 1 main event, you watch Piper and Orndorff and Hogan. And that was 1985. Hogan
Right.
was 6 years in. Piper wasn't more than 7 or 8 years in. Orndorff was
Yeah.
about the same as Piper. Maybe Piper was 10 years in,
Right.
75, 76, right? But still, holy hell, those guys are awesome.
Yeah. And like you were saying about Hogan always being the right place, the right time. I think that was it might be like a generational thing because all those old timers, they would work smarter, not harder.
Hmm.
So they would be at the right place at the right time where it was just made it easier to do and make the match go flow better, have a better match flow and everything. They're all real good about being at the right place at the right time.
Right. And Bob Evans and I have watched a lot of mid at like 80, 82, 83 through 85, 86 WWF house shows that are all over YouTube from the Boston Garden, the Philadelphia Spectrum. Spectrum ones are fascinating. So they had different
Yeah.
broadcasters. Um, and the way Hogan worked when he won the belt, the way he came in and they smashed him over, right? 5 minutes beating the Sheik, and he's the new champ at the Garden. And then he had title defenses against Orndorff, and those were hot matches. They were red hot.
Yeah.
And Hogan worked kind of as a heel, especially in Philly,
Right.
because they were really careful with his image. They didn't want white meat babyface. They were building a monster. So they smashed him over, but then kept smashing him over for a while. Then about through the summer of 85, then he started to sell because now he's working with Big John Studd.
Right.
And he learned how to work as a champion, where basically he had been smashed over his whole career until that point, and then
Mhm.
he had to sell.
Yeah.
And boy, he did it great because you all of a sudden have to give yourself you have this aura of invincibility, but now you have to be vulnerable.
Right.
And Casey, for a wrestler, that has got to be tough, right?
Right.
How hard was it for you to learn how to sell good? Because you were very much a
Um.
stand-up fighter, you know, real tough, could take great bumps,
Right.
but nevertheless, you were taught by a guy who learned, and the era that he was in is you had to protect yourself and you had to make sure you got yourself over. So
Right.
that was always like a little difficult, right?
Yeah. Also, I learned a lot about selling from Blackjack Mulligan. So, and I wasn't as big as those guys, but I kind of I'd make them beat me down, So I implemented a lot how Jack would tell me how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So and that Hogan's he sold the same way Blackjack did. You're not gonna just punch. In wrestling, you do 1, 2. You're gonna bump on the third punch. Yeah, no, Hogan. He might go down to a knee or grab the rope. Same thing as Blackjack.
Right.
You're gonna get him down. So when you finally get him down, that's where you're gonna get the big the big response from the crowd because you finally got him off his feet.
Right.
It meant something then than just quick bumps and bing, 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 bing. So it was, yeah,
There's some matches like I watched a Vader match in a cage from Bash at the Beach, Huntington Beach, California. Couple of takeaways from that. Of course, that was Dennis Rodman in the yellow and red because he was one
yeah,
of Hogan's guys. Jimmy Hart in the corner. The production guys must have had a nightmare shooting that show because it was outside and the sun was at a terrible angle.
oh yeah, that's
And
brutal.
they probably were fighting white balance and camera issues the whole night as I
Sure.
watched that. I watched him just get his ass kicked by Vader, and I watched Vader do nothing to and this is one of the reasons why they let Vader go because Hogan is absolutely giving his body to Vader. And Vader is doing nothing with it other than picking him up and slamming him again. And it's like he couldn't work good enough to know what to do. Here is the legendary world champion Hulk Hogan who is selling for you and you ain't doing it right.
Yeah,
I was like, what is Leon doing? Why is he just doing this? Why isn't he? Hogan is going to lay there until Leon goes and gets him. Why isn't he
right.
trying to do something with the cage? Why isn't he over there messing with Jimmy Hart, trying to draw Rodman up, trying to do something?
Sure.
I watched that match. I was like, what is he doing? Stop doing that. Stop picking him up, only to throw him down again. But
You're like calling the match, like, oh, you should be doing
yeah,
this. Yeah.
go fuck with the people, Leon. Jesus. Hogan also, I'll tell you, here's a scary bump for a wrestler. Um, when you got your back turned and you are going to take a bump into the corner buckle, but it's predicated on a knee or a shove or something from your blind
Right.
side.
Right.
You don't know when it's going to happen. You anticipate it, but you've got to time it just right.
Yeah.
And that's a risk of paralysis because you could get knocked down, he could hit you high and you go low, and all of a sudden
Oh yeah, that's true.
you're Tommy Young and yourself. Um,
Yeah.
he did that. I saw that twice, and he did it perfectly both times. Both in WCW. That blindside bump scares me. Wrestlers out there, don't
Yeah.
let guys hit you from behind like that. Turn around,
I
feet
never
into it.
thought about it though until you mentioned until you said something right now.
Oh, that's awful.
Maybe that's why I can't move my neck.
Maybe that's why I can't. I
Yeah.
can't.
Here.
I can't do this.
No, I'm doing it right now. That's it.
Oh, that's it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Ear to ear.
I have you been working
So
out because the traps are looking big
what's
tonight.
that? Oh, I
I'm
think
not
it's a
lying to you.
shirt.
Look at this. Look at your traps are looking huge. No, 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 no. I
Oh
mean, it's got
yeah.
a hood on it, but are you are you training? Are you
No,
training for
I
a
mean I
comeback?
still got traps. Luckily.
You're going to be a big guy no matter what,
Yeah.
even at your heaviest.
I did have a big workout this weekend. I was down the me and my girl went down to see my kids. Both of them are in town in Boca, their moms. And well, first we were going to go to we're like, what are we going to do? We're going to go bowling. And then we were like, oh, let's do this. And we decided, okay, let's go to the range and shoot. So we're going to go to the shooting range. And then my son's like, it's taking forever to get ready and stuff. So we are like, you know what? We're gonna go to this bar where you ever seen it where you throw axe?
Oh
You throw an
yeah.
axe like darts, but you're throwing an axe. And you threw 5 times each round. I think it was like 7 or 8 rounds. So about 40 times I'm throwing an axe. So um, yeah, that's maybe why they're looking a little bigger. I had a little workout this weekend.
They're feeling they're feeling good. They're looking good.
And I got to meet my son's girlfriend, Lily. So now they're both um, my my daughter, her boyfriend, Landon. What's up, buddy? You're watching the show tonight? My daughter informed me that he watches our show live every time it's on. So,
Well, there you go. You're
we're
a good
building the
boy.
fans one by one, I guess. However, whatever it takes, right?
You need more kid. You got to be like Stu Hart. You need more kids. You got to have more kids so
Yeah.
you have more fans.
No,
Um,
we'll find them another way. We're increasing their at a nice pace. We're building our foundation of our viewership, so everything is going well there. But I did get to spend some time this weekend with the kids and everything. Got to check out my son's police car. He's like, Don't touch that." I was like a kid in a candy store, and he's like, no selling me, like, here, it's open. Go look at it. I'll go to open. No, no, don't touch it. And I opened the back seat. And he's like, "Don't go in there." I said, "Is it nasty?" He's like, "Yeah, all those people I arrest in there." So,
did that
but it was good.
now when you get to see that, I would imagine that there is an enormous source of pride
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
because
It's
I mean, your son, your son, who you're proud of both your kids. You love them immensely.
yeah,
You you've always been so supportive of everything. Chase, going through the police academy and now being a cop, and
yeah,
it's like, man, that's pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely is because we always watched cops growing up. And another thing that's really interesting that I don't even realize noticed if he realized it. He's a third generation cop. His grandfather was a cop, both his uncles were a cop, and now he's a cop in law enforcement. So,
That's amazing.
it's a third generation. So when he's around all of them there, of course his grandfather passed away before all this.
Hmm.
Um, but he does wear my his grandfather's pendant with the badge number and all that stuff on it. And
Now,
it's one of the Catholic thing that it protects I know I'm gonna butcher all this. It's the pendant of protection. So he
yes,
wears that every shift. That was his grandfather. So
and
that's really cool too.
his badge number is the same, almost same badge number as his grandfather's, right?
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. But
But like obviously his grandfather had a very low badge number, but Chase's is
yeah,
higher. But they both end in 24 or something like that. I remember you saying,
yeah, I don't remember exactly.
or am I thinking
I
of another podcast? I don't know.
No,
I swear you told me that, but no, that's so awesome that he's doing that, and obviously Izzy's just starting in her post collegiate, experience, right? She graduates when?
no, she has 2 more years.
She still has 2 more years. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm
Saint
moving her in next weekend. I'm moving. She has her own place. Her and her best. Yes, you're absolutely right. Saint
Saint
Michael.
Michael. Thank you, Jay the Red. Jay
Yes. So
Jay the Red.
I'm moving her in next. She has an apartment. Her best friend, her childhood best friend, is moving to Georgia, moving in with her. It's just the two of them. So and this is an unfurnished house and everything. So we have to put everything, we got everything, all the furniture, from A to Z, everything for the house. So we're going to move her in, and she's excited to get up there and start her junior year. So
In where is this? In
it's,
Statesboro, Georgia?
yep, Statesboro, Georgia.
That's pretty good. It's a good little spot show town. We
Yeah.
we can I remember that's how I learned a lot of geography when I was a kid. Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
And all
absolutely.
the little towns that Freddie Miller would say. And there were towns, of course, that you heard, and it would always call, and this Sunday, the Omni in Atlanta. It's like,
Oh yeah, I remember looking at the map. I look at the Florida map and be like, I was talking to Bugsy McGraw this weekend,
household
and
Bugsy.
he's doing well. We talked the Thursday night, the night Hogan passed. We talked for a couple hours on the phone. So, um, Hulk Hogan's father was a really, really big Bugsy McGraw fan.
Really?
Yeah, and when Hulk's father was not doing well, he was actually at Tampa General, and so a message got down for him to go up the show when Hulk was there. Bugsy was a nurse at Tampa General after his wrestling career was over, and he went up there and he said to his dad, he's like, Dad, he's like, Bugsy McGraw's here to see you. And it just meant the world to him, and it meant the world to Hawk for him to come up there to see his father and everything. So, but we were talking about the old territory days, and he was talking about, I was asking him some more questions about because I seen some old tapes when Knoxville, when Kevin Sullivan was young, Blackjack was there, and it was Blackjack Mulligan, Black Mac, and Barry was Blackjack Mulligan Jr. He
Yep.
was the shits, by the way. Then horrible. Oh, this match was brutal. I was like cringing watching it. And I was asking him stuff like that, and he was like, there's a lot of those territories, which I didn't realize. Like he was telling me San Francisco, they only ran like one or two towns that territory. So a lot of the towns weren't full-time territories. They only wrestle like Amarillo, they had a couple little, two towns, two or three towns a month. So he said, he was talking, he had to go to New York to, WWF for a full time territory mid South with, you know, um, Cowboy, the Cowboy, and then you had to go to Texas with, Fritz Von Erich in
So that may have
Florida.
been one of the reasons why Terry and Dory Jr. were traveling all the time. Is
Yeah, that
they
made a lot of it made a lot of sense when he was telling me that.
Yeah. Again, full-time territories like Bill Watson, Mid South, and Jarrett Lawler in
Right.
Tennessee. Florida was a full-time territory. Georgia was a full-time territory, but small. Carolinas were full-time, huge. Had as many as
He
three
said there's like
separate crews running.
20 of them out of all the I think there's like maybe 28 or 30 some territories,
Yep,
about 20 of them you could go full time at.
right. Vancouver, British Columbia was a small territory. You had what else was a small one? Trying to think. Um, well, the Sheik's territory had mileage involved, but it was a lot of spot shows
Yeah.
because you would go Michigan and Ohio.
Right.
Um, and I would imagine that Dick the Bruiser's Indianapolis was probably the same way. That there were a lot
Yeah.
of small shows, but then you would have to go work other places if you were. And a lot of good guys didn't go to Indianapolis because you weren't going to beat Dick the Bruiser in Indianapolis. You weren't going to be the
Right.
top guy. You might get main events out of
Right.
him, but that Dick the Bruiser would go work St. Louis. St. Louis was a one town territory. It wasn't even a territory. It was just a town.
Yeah. And but
Um,
like he was talking, he only worked for Vern in the AWA one time, and that's when they're up in Canada because Bugsy apparently in the 70s, Bugsy was like really over in Canada. He was like out of all entertainment, everyone they did like a big poll, and he was like the top one or two celebrities in the whole Canada.
really?
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's going to put himself over a little bit when he tells the story because there's a little bit of they stretch it, the truth a little bit, and fit the narrative, make it sound good and everything. So, y- um, you have to expect that with anything, I would imagine.
But again, you can get over in some weird places in some weird ways. Like
Yeah,
um, there were some guys that couldn't get over anywhere else, but they would go to this one particular play. I mean, Bugsy McGraw wasn't that over in the United States, but he came to Florida. Whoo!
yeah, yeah.
Dusty sprinkled some of that American Dream dust on him, and he was
Hmm.
off to the races.
Yeah, he did real well over in Australia with
Yeah, Jim
which
Barnett.
yeah, Jim Barnett. That was his territory over there. That was a full-time territory. He said a lot of
That
traveling
would have
there
been
too.
something. Yeah, just to
Yeah,
get there. Once you were there, if you read Gary Hart's book, um, once you were there, it was easy. You would fly a lot, but it would
Right.
be
He did
small,
tell me
you
that.
know, small planes, and you would fly between the towns, between Sydney and Melbourne, and they didn't do a lot of spot shows. And when Buddy Fuller took over, when Jim Barnett sold the territory to the Tennessee crew to Buddy Fuller, he decided he wanted to do a bunch of spot shows, and he was trying to find places for them to work. And well, these
Right.
guys are here and we're paying them. Why aren't we running towns? And they try to find a town to run, and then it would be like, outside at a horse track, and there would be monsoonal rains. So it's like, this is why we run where we run. But when you look at it's, and going back to Hogan, so he was trained in Florida, and then, as was the case with everybody, once you got trained in Florida, you left and you didn't come back for a while, um, if ever. Like
Right.
Paul Orndorff was trained there and left
Mm-hmm.
and went to Mid South. Um, Hogan left and went to Knoxville, or
Yep.
went to, no,
Knoxville.
not Knoxville first.
Oh, he went to
He went to
Continental.
he went to Continental first,
Yep. With the Fullers.
right? Because Louis Tillett was the booker for Southeastern, and I guess Eddie sent, because Louis Tillett used to be a top guy in Florida and was the
Right.
booker in Florida in like 75, 76. So this is now 79, and he's the booker for the Fullers. And he told Ron, "Hey, I need you to come down and work with this guy, this big guy. He's a Florida guy. You might know him." And Fuller never met him, never knew him, because Ron was gone by then. But yeah, and he worked there, and he worked Knoxville, and he worked Tennessee. He worked
Yeah.
a little bit
Tennessee,
in Atlanta,
Memphis.
and
Yep.
then he was gone. Boom, see, and went to New
He went to
York.
AWA.
Went to, yeah, was off to the races. Never came back to the South. Worked New York. Worked for Vern. Back and forth to Japan. Huge overstar,
Vince
and
took
then
him.
of course
Vince
it,
stole them and
that was it.
changed the wrestling world.
So I did we talk about this? I can't remember if we talked about this or not. Um, I wondered out loud, did Vince Senior have somebody in mind to take the belt? Oh, we did talk about this because it was going to be Steve Kern that he was toying
Right. And
with.
then what it was is the story Kevin Sullivan told me was they made a bet is what it was. So they couldn't take a really vanilla guy, so they send up Bob Backlund. The bet was you couldn't get him over to, you know, as the champion. Because that's, your whole career is over a bet,
Yeah,
you know. So,
it's
but
like
yeah, it was going to be Steve Kern to begin with, but they ended up sending Backlund, and then Backlund got it and everything.
and you go back and you watch how, Vince, the Vince McMahon that we all know, how his fingerprints were all over how uh, Hogan won the belt, got over, Pat Patterson being the referee in that main event match.
Right.
Um, it was, and Pat, of course, was hugely influential in
Sure.
in Hogan in Hogan's run, managing the egos, managing Hogan's ego. I'm sure Hogan had an ego. He was freaking Hulk Hogan.
And I'm
Um,
sure Pat was laying out all the matches for him,
yeah,
like Pat always did, even did for even The Rock and all them. So that probably helped, Hogan later on, like with WCW and stuff like that, because he's learning from the best, Pat Patterson.
yep. When you work with, and again, I always tried to be the fly on the wall in a lot of situations. I know you did too,
Oh yeah,
Casey, because that's how you learn.
absolutely.
And sat at the bar a couple of times with Pat and just asked him some questions about how did you do this, and what was the methodology for that. And a lot of times it would be there are some matches that need the help and other matches that don't need the help. You know, um, Savage and Steamboat didn't need help,
No.
and
Oh, yeah.
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels doesn't need help, but
Right.
um, but then you get ego involved, and then you got we got to make sure that the you're doing business the right way, and now all of a sudden these matches do need help. And
Right.
I'm sure that somebody like Piper was difficult to deal with. And
Oh, I bet.
again, these guys were. I bet Piper was probably one of the most difficult to deal with, or Savage was difficult to deal with,
Yeah. Did
because
you know
they all had
Savage very
ego
well?
and they all wanted. Didn't meet him. Didn't never met him once in my whole life.
Oh, really? Wow.
Great regret. I only met Hogan at WrestleMania 18 in Toronto, but
Really?
he knew who
Oh, I
I
didn't
was.
know
So
that.
he knew who I was. That made me feel good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yep.
That's nice.
Speaking of me, let's get this out of the way since Comic Book Bob was nice to send this. Hola, Mr. Kelly. Missing you on commentary. I'm missing commentary as well, my friend, but thank you very much. Speaking of comic books, I had a hell of a day today. You might have seen it, Casey. I was at Comics and Cool Stuff in Carlisle, and
Oh,
they
okay.
do big comic book collectibles store, pretty much everything that there is if you're into it. Funko Pops, comic books, old record albums,
Oh, wow.
Star Wars, video games, you name it, they've got it. And
And wrestling
it,
falls right in that category.
yes, indeed. And so they did their big Christmas in July sale, and
Oh,
they had a huge turnout, and it was wonderful. And we sold tickets and introduced ourselves to a
excellent.
lot of people, and it made me feel good. They were like, "Oh, we've been hearing about you." It's like, "Oh, thank God, thank you,
So
Jesus."
let me ask you a question. You're sporting the new The Pro Wrestling T-shirt, which
Yep,
I really like that shirt.
I got to get you one.
In
It's coming in the mail this week.
three three X.
I got to order that one.
The question is, are you behind on your phone calls from the purchases?
Why? What have you heard?
No, I'm just I'm asking a question.
I am. I am. I got to do that tomorrow.
So you buy a T-shirt, and
Yes.
allegedly, eventually, one of the days before the T-shirt wears out, you'll get a phone call
Well, he hadn't
from
gotten his.
the Kevin Kelly about the pro wrestling.
To be fair, he hasn't gotten his T-shirt yet. It was ordered.
Oh,
It
okay.
was ordered last week, so I got a little grace period. Man, I wake up because I work at night, so I get home like
Yeah,
3:30 in the morning, and then I go to bed at like 5, and I get up around noon, and then I go out, and I've been hitting the town, um,
yeah.
or the surrounding towns, and then I come home and I go to work. So I'm a little bit behind, but um, yeah, so we're okay. I got to get shirts. You know, it's funny. I didn't order 3X, and I'm kicking myself for doing it
Oh,
because
yes, you
I
will.
should have.
The
I got
big people love to buy the T-shirts.
I know, but I thought I did. And then as I was going through the box today, because I got two boxes full of shirts, and I put a variety of sizes together because I wanted to bring some shirts with me, and sold a couple. Um, when
Oh,
you
good.
order online, you get the phone call from me. Otherwise, you get the personal thank you handshake.
Right,
By the way, if
right.
you do want to get your own T-shirt, you go to theprowrestling.bigcartel.com. The pro wrestling
Okay.
at theprowrestling.bigcartel.com, and you can pay with Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and takes the order, and it's very easy. And we do the fulfillment.
Nice. But if you want
Um,
tickets for the pro wrestling at the Carlisle Center
yep.
August 9th, you go to pro the pro wrestling or something tix.com, right?
Yeah, getthetix.com.
That's right.
I
Getthetix.com.
I'm still shocked that URL was available. Because I mean, it just happens with us
Yeah.
that we're THE, but hey, getthetix.com, how I'm surprised that was available, that nobody owned it.
Yeah,
But
no, that's great.
yeah, so it made me feel good that people know what we're doing. Oh, I've seen that. Oh, I've heard about it. And one of the guys, Ryan, who's a huge wrestling fan at the comic book store, he's about our age, and he loves the wrestling that we love, Florida, Mid-Atlantic. You know, he was a
Oh
Magnum
yeah.
TA guy.
Oh,
He
okay.
he loves all that stuff, and he was
You
like,
know what
"Why?"
Magnum's nickname was in WCW? It might have just been the enhancement guys that call them.
All right, wait a second now, because this will be a short. So Casey Thompson, you've got some intel on a nickname that was bestowed
Yes.
upon Magnum TA. Who gave Magnum, before you say the nickname, who gave it to him?
I'm not sure. It's just what it always was. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it started, but his nickname was Lefty.
Lefty.
Yeah,
Why Lefty?
'cause he was paralyzed from the car
Oh,
wreck. Yeah.
that's terrible.
Hey, Lefty said this. His name is just Lefty. I
Damn it.
remember we were doing. I think it was he was he was like Dusty's assistant booker back in the 90s, right? And
Yeah.
Dusty, Barry Windham, we were somewhere. Barry had this badass, I think it was a Ford F350, but it had 3 doors in each side, plus the bed. And it was jacked up really high off the ground. And Lefty Magnum, he rode with Barry. And I'm looking, I'm like, how in the hell are they going to get him up there? Because he can't climb up there. And I'm not being mean. It's true. How is he
Yeah.
going to get up this high? Myself today, and I have 2 legs and 2 arms. I couldn't get up in that thing. So I guess I don't know what they did. I was following Barry out. We were in, I think, Anderson, South Carolina, somewhere like that. We're in the back roads going back to Atlanta the next day. And I was following Barry, and I was going 130, and he just left me like I was just, crawling. He's just gone. I seen the taillights would just little by little just totally just disappeared. So, and of
Jesus.
course, Doug Dillinger rode with Barry, and Doug was the cop from the area, the head of security for WCW, and he'd always get him out of tickets and all that kind of stuff. But yep, I remember because the it was Barry driving, Dusty was in there, Magnum, Doug Dillinger, Janie Angle, which was she's like the executive assistant of whoever the booker was, because she used to
Right.
be Kevin's executive assistant. Whoever had that spot, she was there. So did you happen to see the WWE's tribute to Hulk Hogan?
I did. I did.
You have any thoughts on that?
Man, it got me.
Yeah,
It hit me in the feels. Um, and I mean, we got to talk about it, because when you're when you're on the side of Donald Trump, and make no bones about it, Hulk Hogan came out as, a true Trump supporter during the
right.
election, and talked about the fact that he had voted
Yeah,
for
the
Trump and didn't
RNC.
dare say anything
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, and he gives that amazing speech at the RNC.
And then
Um,
people wonder why Hogan got booed from the first Netflix because they were in LA.
they were in
That's
L.A.
why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it didn't have anything to do with, what he had said 10 years ago or whatever. It was
right.
because he was a Trump supporter.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, listen, people can support whatever, and that was why Hogan never had voiced an opinion politically before, and it's why a lot of people say, listen, I'm trying to get people to buy tickets or buy T-shirts that are both, Democrat and Republican, liberal, conservative. I want everybody to buy stuff from me, so people don't give their
Right,
political opinions. Um, but said after the assassination attempt that was the reason why he realized he had been a phony sitting on the sidelines. He couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore.
right.
Um, and so they booed him out of the building. But boy, there was not a peep. This past, what was it, Friday, Thursday, whatever it was.
Yeah, SmackDown. So Friday. Yeah, the
Yeah,
night
it
after.
was it was pretty awesome.
And you see, they brought back some legends that were, you know, Hogan's friends, a bunch of Florida guys. They had, of course, Jerry Briscoe
Yep.
was there. They had, which a lot of I seen a lot of people on social media who was standing next to this, and it was B. Brian Blair.
Yep.
People were asking who that was, and people were like, he's part of the Killer Bees, WrestleMania one, all this kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Um, yeah, so they had a whole bunch of the legends, million dollar Ted DiBiase, $1 million man. He was, he had a really good tribute to Hogan, had some stories to tell. I've been seeing a lot this week of things that you not necessarily have seen before, things of Hogan that fans have run across them, and Hogan just doing something nice for them that never came to light before, and it was pretty pretty astonishing.
Just a little story about him getting Bugsy to come see his dad. You
Yeah,
know, that's the type of thing that those are the stories we don't know. And
right.
those are whatever. He takes care of his
Yeah,
boys, he takes care of his friends. Yeah, he's a pretty loyal dude.
yeah,
Um, Kevin
and
Nash
that's a
had
great
said,
attribute of a friend
yeah,
to
Kevin
have.
Nash had
You
said a
know.
few years ago of Hogan that the Hulk that he knew or that he knows, he likes to get up in the morning and smoke a joint and ride his bicycle to the gym. It's like
Yeah,
it's pretty unassuming lifestyle, pretty unassuming guy.
right.
Um, Now, has anybody, and I'm curious about this because the rumor mill was that Bubba the Love Sponge had some inside information that Hogan was in poor health and was not doing well. Has there been any more talk about that in Florida this week? Has anybody been opining about that? Because
No, I mean,
obviously Bubba and Hogan used to be super tight, great friends. They had a very very
right,
public falling out, as everyone knows the story. But
right.
uh, incommunicado since then. But Bubba the Love Sponge was the first one to say, "Hey, Hogan's in bad shape," and everybody was like, "What?" And
Yeah,
Hogan's people said,
I
"No, he's
mean,
fine. What are you talking about?"
obviously it was true.
Yeah.
You know,
Did
so
Did you ever
but
work on any of those radio promotion shows that were around? Because I know Bubba was doing stuff, and there was the Monsters of the Midday that were doing
oh
stuff in
yeah, yeah,
Orlando.
I've done stuff like that all over the place. I did talk about before when Kevin Sullivan had his grand opening and Bubba Love Sponge was there because Hogan was there and everything. And um, my son Chase, his mother was probably mm, 7, 8 months pregnant.
Oh wow.
And Hogan, and she came also, and she was going up on a little step stool to get something, and Hogan's like, "No, you got to get down," and he's like, "Oh, you got to shove a little wrestler in there," and she's like, "Oh my God, he cursed us," with and everything. She was talking about that this weekend too. I seen her for a moment, but um, I've had, you know, I didn't realize that you only met Hogan one time.
Just the once.
So, yeah, I was
WrestleMania 18.
surprised to hear that. And then we did talk about in this show when I broke a couple cameras and got called to the booking office, and everyone from WCW was in there, including Hulk Hogan. And then the one story that had a lot of traction over the years is that Hogan was going to wrestle an enhancement guy in his personal referee, Randy Anderson, Pee Wee. So I went, the Pee Wee offered my payday for it. And he's like, done. And came in there the next day on the board. It said Hulk Hogan versus Casey Thompson. And then that's how wrestling, everything changes. They switched it a couple million times too, where I had the day off and then I ended up wrestling fucking Vader. But anyhow, um, yeah, it's a sad thing, seeing that an icon in the wrestling industry has, passed away, and it really makes you think because, like, man, he's 71. That's not that old. It's like it makes you really think about your life and how much more of your life you have left and everything.
Yeah.
So, but
Here's an interesting thought as we opine about Hogan, and yeah, a few people have said that they thought Hogan's promotion team was pushing him too hard with all these projects that he was doing. A few sites have claimed, some of his friends and his wife Sky had voiced that.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
So 71-year-old guy, and he's got this new real real wrestling project started with Eric Bischoff, and he's
yeah,
been promoting his beer and the
which is
store and
freestyle wrestling.
freestyle wrestling. Right, Chase would have been
Yeah,
perfect for that. Um,
yeah,
but the idea of okay, he wants to do stuff, but we got to go, go, go. We got to be here
Yeah.
and do this and fly here and do that. I don't know. I mean, I think that
I've
comes with the
never known
territory.
Hulk Hogan to be shy of saying, that doesn't work for me, brother."
Right. Now, is there okay,
So
so that's a line that's always associated with Hogan. But do you know its
yes.
origin? Because I don't.
No, but I've seen it happen many a times. I Kevin Sullivan was, Kevin Sullivan was a very, very close friend of mine. I knew him since I was 15 years old. Okay, I'm 53 years old now, so I've known for a long time, and it's just not someone I knew. I've been at his house, stayed with him, traveled with him, and so Kevin was the head booker for WCW, and I would see him practically writing the shows out and coming back, and Hogan be like, "No, that don't work for me, brother. Come up with something else." Because Hogan had creative control. So
Right.
if he didn't want to do it, they're going to rewrite it to where it gets to the exactly how Hogan is happy and content with doing it. So they have to be very creative in their writing to get across what they want to get across and to where Hogan is still happy in order to make it all gel together. And it's
Mhm.
not the easiest thing to do. And I've heard millions of people tell the same story. I'm telling because they've all seen it too. And they would literally be rewriting the endings, all the segments with Hogan in it as the pyro was going off for the opening of
Jeez.
Nitro. So yeah, I mean if it didn't fit to what he wanted it to be, yeah, he definitely would veto it.
And another, and again, as you say that, and I'm thinking about all these greenhorns that he wrestled. He wrestled Zeus. That guy was
Yeah.
terrible. And they
Oh
were
yeah.
able to pull a match out. It wasn't any good, but they
Yeah.
were able to pull a match out.
They
But
made money.
they did
It
make
drew.
money.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So I never heard stories of Hogan being difficult to deal with in New York. That
Right.
you had to, if the photographers, because I always talk to the staff, and you want to know how people are viewed, talk to the
Right.
staff. Because Sid had a bad reputation, but came in and changed everybody's mind. Oh, he's much better now. We love him this time. Warrior had a terrible reputation. Nobody wanted to see
Oh
him
yeah.
when he came back because he was awful to
Every
deal with.
time.
He
Yeah.
wouldn't, yeah, he wouldn't want to do anything, and he was miserable, and it was just never fun for the staff.
Me and
Um,
my girl's been watching the um Dark Side of the Ring, watching the Warrior episode where as he grew in the company, got more and more power. Then now he wanted his own dressing room. I was there when it had Ultimate Warrior dressing room because a Warrior had a dressing room. That means Hogan had to have his own dressing room.
right,
So you'd have Vince's office. You'd have all the things, all the sign. You go there or the directional wall to tell you catering's over here, dressing rooms are over here, Vince's office, and then it was basically then when I was there in '91, it was Hogan had a dressing room, Warrior had a dressing room, and then everyone else.
right.
It wasn't like now with buses and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he was very difficult. But I think what you're back to what you're saying, Hogan didn't I mean, I'm sure he had somewhat of creative control, but not to the point like he had in WCW, where he had final say on everything that was involved in his creativity of him.
Right. And it didn't mean that he was only going to work with his friends because he worked with a bunch of different people.
Right? Yeah.
Um, but it just meant that along the way, he didn't trust whoever was, and it's not necessarily that he didn't trust Kevin Sullivan. I would imagine that he didn't trust some of the other people that were around Kevin Sullivan that were pitching this or suggesting that, and
Right.
Kevin was just the bad guy because I know he liked Kevin. They got along really well. Um,
Yeah.
they were tight for
And
years.
Orndorff was one of his assistants,
Hmm.
which was a Hogan guy. You had Jimmy Hart,
Yeah.
which was a Hogan guy. So and look at the relationship after WCW that Eric Bischoff had with Hogan.
Right.
I mean, they're everywhere. Every business venture was basically together.
TNA, of course, was one of their
Yeah.
that was something that didn't work.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because it was the transition out of the Jarrett control and then sort of the bridge to the next incarnation of Dixie Carter
Yeah.
and with her being more in control. So there was always interesting things. He didn't sit still, that's for sure. Um, but people described, people were there because I've been talking to people all week about it, and one of my drivers or somebody that I saw at work said that they saw Hogan years ago at the Hershey Park Arena and
Okay.
got to see him and shake hands with him or whatever. And he, but then they saw him walk away, and this was Hogan in WWF. And they saw him walking away, and he was like slow and slumping, and you could tell he was
Right.
walking in some pain. But for the few moments that he was with the people, he was Hulk Hogan, and he was
Right.
standing up
I
straight.
give you
But
a couple Hulk Hogan stories.
okay.
1991 to whenever, what, maybe 93, I was wrestling in Daytona Beach at the Ocean Center for WWF. And Hogan pulled up in his Mercedes, and I was out back. I seen him come in and everything, and something happened where there was a breach with security, so his car got surrounded by all kinds of fans and everything. And Hogan come in a bitch, and that there was a security breach, and
Hmm.
all this kind of stuff. So that was
Some of the
quite
boys would get upset about that.
yeah, yeah.
I've heard that from lesser talent on the card,
And
and it's
then
like
yeah,
it's okay. No one's gonna stab you.
right.
Half the people don't.
Yeah.
They
And
they
then
they, they don't even know who you are.
yeah, and then another time, um, someone was coming up introducing himself that um, he worked for the Seminole tribe of Florida, and they wanted to do something with Hogan. Hogan's like, "Ah, no problem. I don't have no problem taking the Seminoles' money, you know, because they have plenty of money."
They do.
Because you can tell when a mark is talking to them because the way they respond and talk back, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, definitely, we'll take their money, no problem.
Sure.
Yeah,
Um, and when you look at what Hogan, has kind of done over the last few years, a lot of the quote unquote tall tales have come out.
yeah,
And how he wrestled 400 days in a year because he was going back and forth to Japan, and that gave him
Japan.
more time. And that that he was pitched two products to endorse. One was
Or George George
some
Ford,
smoothie maker, or
the
the what
grill.
became the George Foreman grill,
Yeah,
and he chose the other
you
one.
know,
And
people are like, say he's a liar. No, you know what it is, and you probably know this very well too. In the wrestling business, you're going to tell stories, but you're going to add a little entertainment to it to make it sound better. So you're going to
right,
embellish and stretch it. And you can make it fit your narrative.
you can
And he
do
was
you.
good about that.
He was very good, and again was a um, and it's something that I think is lost on this generation of wrestlers is that you have to get yourself over. That's your job.
Yeah.
Get yourself over. Your job as the heel is to get the baby face over. Um, and so there was always that showman aspect of Hogan. There was the showman aspect of Randy Savage, and all these things. We didn't want to see. You don't want to see Terry Bollea, but you definitely want to see
Mm-mm.
Hulk Hogan. You want to talk to. You want to have a conversation with Terry Bollea over coffee. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But you're going to get Hulk Hogan because that's who he
Right.
is, and it's hard to
Yeah.
separate the two. Again, that's what one of the big knocks on Ric Flair is that he's so just out there now that it's like we don't know who's who and what's what. And um but so the idea of Hogan being stretched too thin, to me, I think is as long as he's Hulk Hogan, he's going to be Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And he's not going to, he's going to say, did the check clear? Okay, I'll be there. So
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of it. If people are paying him money, then he's going to do it and he's going to uphold his end of the bargain.
Right.
He
Yeah, it was
wasn't
good.
like a no-show guy. He wasn't like a
No.
bait and switch guy. If he was going to be there, he was going to be there.
Yeah, he
And
was good about that.
yeah, so there's that. Um, it is funny how you do mention that Pee Wee Anderson was his personal referee because I did see a lot of Pee Wee Anderson this weekend.
Yeah.
He refereed a lot of those matches.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, then it was Charles Robinson after Pee Wee's death.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but when you look at the okay, so the other story of the week, and I wanted to get into this with you, and people are talking about deaths in threes. First was Malcolm
Hmm.
Jamal Warner, then was Ozzy Osbourne, then Hulk. Um, the two things that I want to say, um, Hogan, of course, had to upstage both of them because he's Hulk Hogan. That's not going to work for
Yeah.
me, brother. Ozzy, the
Exactly.
most famous celebrity to die this week, Hulk Hogan. It's not that's not going to work for me, brother. Were
Yeah,
you an
because I think you mean Ozzy was big, but Hogan was bigger
yeah,
when to household name.
right.
Everyone knows Hulk Hogan.
I think a lot of people knew of. Um, here's another one from. Oh, this is from the trial. Oh, and this was unfortunate. Yeah. Thank you, comic book Bob. They don't need to see that anymore. Well done. Um, of course, Ozzy made a lot of headlines with his involvement with WrestleMania, and then a few years later, of course, and is a Hall of Famer and all this and that. Are you an Ozzy fan? Is that what Is that your genre of music? What's your feeling on that?
Mm, no, I mean I'm not a huge Ozzy fan. I liked them and everything. Um, I know my buddy that is the his last his last concert he did over in England.
Yeah.
My buddy was there and sent me some pictures and videos and stuff like that because he's the head of security for Metallica and Metallica's was one of the groups
Ah,
there. So, but yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting with the all the stuff I've been seeing about Ozzy, and then it just kind of just went away when the announcement of Hogan. He just took right over.
right.
But
Um, and then with Ozzy, I think a lot of people knew him from the reality show, so they weren't
yeah,
Black
he
Sabbath
got a lot of
fans.
yeah. They said he got a lot of fame from that.
Yeah, but a lot of people got to know him as sort of the henpecked husband to this, crazy house of crazy people. And
Yeah.
my wife was telling me that at Ozzy's funeral, Ozzy's first wife and Sharon Osbourne sang a duet. Um,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm like, I said to her, "Well, you and my first wife could sing at my funeral," and that didn't get over at all. That was not a funny line. She didn't see the humor in it, and not because I was
Uh,
dead. I wasn't
yeah.
married before. I was lucky I got her. Um, but when you think about weird Hollywood types, um, Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne are kind of at the top of the list, and that whole
Yeah.
thing. Hogan never strayed too far from his Florida roots. I mean, he's a Georgia guy, born in Georgia, but settled on the West Coast, Clearwater. That was kind of always his oasis, kind of his home, right?
Oh yeah. Always Clearwater. Yeah. Always.
Have you gone to the Hogan store? Did you work out in the gym? Did you ever go to the what were their names? The Bushwhackers.
Yes.
Did you ever go to the
Oh
Bushwhackers
no.
place?
No, I talked to Luke when he was there before, but no, the only wrestling gym I ever went to is in Atlanta. We used to train at Luger and Sting's gym at Main Event Fitness.
There you go. And I remember the name Hal Jeffries. He was a guy who was involved with
Yeah,
WWF, and he apparently was a
yeah.
crook and helped rob the poor bushwhackers of a lot of their money. Southern Joe chiming in with some cultural reference. Embellishments of stories, Casey, in Australia, known as adding a bit of mayo.
Uh,
So there you go. So Hogan he wasn't lying, folks. He was just adding a little bit of mayo. That's it.
yeah, that was his condiment of choice,
That was.
mayo.
Um, when you go back and preceding Hogan in death, my wife reminded me of this. Just a few months ago, Rick Derringer died. So he had done all the
Oh,
songs. He sang "Real American" and was in
wow.
part of the production crew with Jimmy Hart that they did so many memorable
Right.
recordings for WWF stars back in the day.
What's funny is before we went onto the air, when you were coming on the camera, you were like kind of humming, chiming that song, and that song has been in my head all day today. I'm
That's
like,
it's and I was a guy who I hated change, right? So I thought it was so cool that he came out to Eye of the Tiger when he first started there, and
right.
just how he smashed him over. And then they changed his music. I'm a real American, and I was like, blah. But again, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm a smartass
Yeah.
and hated the baby faces. Um, but that song became equally as iconic as Eye of the Tiger,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
the tribute from Sylvester Stallone was beautiful.
Yeah, that was.
Everybody that worked with. Now, I will tell you this: when you talked about the WWF tribute, um, I wondered, and all we saw of Vince was his. He wrote a tweet, sent a thing out on social media.
Oh, Vince
Um,
did?
he did. He wrote something
Oh, I
very
didn't see
nice.
that.
It was very
Okay.
cool.
I was
Um,
wondering about that.
and I heard the Triple H voiceover, and as great as it was, I thought, man, this would have been so much better if it was Vince.
Vince's voice.
I wouldn't want Vince to be there. I wouldn't want Vince to be part of it because it would overshadow the moment. But
Yeah.
man,
That would make for another good story, though.
it, hell of a good story. Um, okay, so now um, the names that you mentioned right off the bat. When we talked about wrestlers, you know, and what they mean, what they know. People know Ric Flair, they know Hulk Hogan, and they know The Rock.
Yeah.
Um, let's let's come up with a all-time top five. Okay, and just off the top of your head, give me your top five. I have a top five, so go ahead and give me your
Um,
top five.
Popularity.
Yeah, overall
It would
draw.
be yeah. Stone Cold, The Rock, and this is no order. Stone Cold, The Rock, Hogan, Ric Flair, and kind of torn with this one. Um, I think the Macho Man.
You could
He's pretty
go. So
well
my
known.
four of my five are exactly the same. Hogan, Flair, Rock, Austin. Number five, my gut says, uh, my instinct says The Undertaker.
Oh yeah,
But if
yeah.
you
That
went, if you go Savage number five, I don't think you're wrong. If you say Bret Hart number five, I don't think you're wrong. Certainly, Bret was much more popular in Europe
right.
um, than he was in the United States because Bret Hart was like Stone Cold, like Hogan, like Flair in Europe,
Okay.
and because of the way the television audience expanded and the way that at the time when a lot of these people in these different countries started getting WWF television or had WWF television and then it went away for a little bit, came back. Bret Hart was the champion. He was the top guy. So
Right.
in that mid 90s era, um, but then you look at uh, so we're pretty solid on the top four. Okay, now you got
Yeah.
to try to at least rank the top four if we're making a Mount Rushmore. Is it
Oh, the
Hogan?
top
Is it
4.
Flair? Is
Hogan
it
and
The
Flair
Rock?
has to be in it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going Mount Rushmore, if we're talking about people that drew money, I look at it people that drew money and the household name that overlaps into. So you'd have to have Hogan, Flair, and The Rock. They have to
Hmm.
be on it because they went from wrestling into pop culture. They went into everywhere. So those three would have to be on it. And that fourth one is a tough one. Some people say you have to have Andre on that.
And
You know,
there's okay, so that's another name, and again, it's very interesting. I never, and I wrote this, my God, over 10 years ago when I was writing for WrestleZone, and I was like, Andre was not as big as people think he was. And part of the reason why, and I said it like it's going to be very difficult for a non English speaking wrestler to ever get over and to be the man because
right?
Andre's promos weren't good because his English wasn't that great. People couldn't understand him, but you saw him and you saw it, when you saw him in the
So is the
arena, it was
Ultimate
everything.
Warrior.
And Ultimate Warrior was another one.
Yeah,
Because it was all nonsense. Um, but so you have to throw Andre in that conversation. But
yeah,
if you're going with Stone Cold Steve Austin, when you talk about people today, they're going to mention Stone Cold Steve Austin ahead of Andre the Giant.
sure, yeah.
And depending
Because
on their
Andre wasn't in this
no,
era.
he's been dead
Yeah,
over 30 years.
yeah,
And when you look at, yeah, and of course, then there's a lot of names. And Comic Book Bob, thank you for chiming in here. You're exactly right. San Martino, Inoki, Andre. It depends on your criteria and your time. Just take Bruno, for example. Let's just put Bruno in that category. If we're
yeah.
just
I mean,
talking about,
but when I do it, I think about just not the wrestling. I think about how their involvement in every aspect of the world.
mhm,
You know, So you have Hogan. He's a pop culture icon. Believe it or not, Ric Flair is, and so is The Rock. So they drew big money in the wrestling and everywhere else.
yep.
So
Um,
yeah, Andre, I guess it depends what the criteria for the Mount Rushmore would be.
mhm,
And it makes it rough because yeah, a lot of those people, Bruno would definitely be one, but it's like before our time, so the impact isn't as strong as it would be the other people we've been talking about.
1983. You know who sold tickets was for me was Junkyard Dog because
Yeah.
Junkyard
Oh,
Dog
he was
came in as
huge.
as Dusty's tag partner to Florida, and
Oh
the
yeah.
Salt and Pepper Connection, as Dusty called it on TV, and we were
Uh,
going over to state bowling tournament in St. Pete, and we got tickets for the Bayfront Center,
oh
and
wow.
we watched them in their main event. I don't even remember who they wrestled, but it was just
You
awesome to
know,
see JYD
Dusty
live.
Rhodes is another one that has to be mentioned.
Now that you bring it up, so let's bring up Dusty.
Man,
Dusty's
that
got to be in that conversation in that top five.
yeah, he has to. I mean, because he pop culture, he's in that too.
Yep.
Dusty is and then you have to bring up superstar Billy Graham because there's no Dusty without superstar Billy Graham.
Right. Right.
It's so difficult to decide all this. We need a bigger freaking mountain, is what we need.
We need more numbers than we need numbers, 1A, 2A.
Now,
But
it
yeah,
has to
we
be a
need a
top
bigger
10.
mountain.
It
We
has
need
to
a
be a
bigger mountain,
top
guys.
10. Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk to Trump. Get us a bigger mountain. He'll get it done.
Yeah,
Um, because there are too many names, and you don't want to slight
yeah.
anybody. And
Right, because
it
they've
all
earned
comes
that.
down to
They have
personal
the
preference.
right.
Because there isn't
Yeah,
there, is there a metric? Well, I don't know. Probably for some people, in the Midwest in Kansas City, Bulldog Bob Brown could have been that guy. I don't know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler in Memphis. There's no
Yeah.
bigger star in one
Carlos
town.
Colon in Puerto Rico.
And Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico.
He's
Yes,
as big as Trinidad. Carlos in Trinidad is the biggest things in Puerto Rico.
it's crazy because
Yeah,
the Cologne name in Puerto Rico today still carries that kind of weight.
sure. And that's what what's crazy is that tells you the industry that we are in for so many years, the magnitude it has, around the world in in and out of every household. It's a little
Right.
scary to think that, isn't it?
Yeah. When Cornette's talked about this a lot. There was a time in the 40s and 50s that the top 5 paid athletes in the world were 4 professional wrestlers and the world heavyweight boxing champion.
Wow,
And
yeah,
because football was in its infancy and the NBA wasn't a thing yet, and
right.
baseball was carefully controlled. But yeah, that's the power of wrestling, and it's been that way, ebbs and flows for 100 years plus. Um, and now we're talking about the passing. It's as if it's like a Babe Ruth, Hogan. I- You're in that category if you want to compare him to other sports.
Right. Yeah.
Hogan is Babe Ruth of wrestling because he was a cross cultural icon. And
Right.
if you're not a baseball fan, if you weren't a baseball fan, you knew who Babe Ruth was. And if
Right.
you weren't a wrestling fan, you knew who Hulk Hogan was. Even if you just wave your
Man,
hand, and think, ugh, you know,
so what's your thought on? I've seen a lot of people giving Tony Khan a lot of heat, or because he didn't make any mention of Hogan, but they let Tony Schiavone do it, and a lot of people are like, he was never even a part of AEW. So what's the WWF didn't recognize other wrestlers that when WCW, if a WCW guy died, so it's very that's an interesting topic.
my gut tells me that was the side that they 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 didn't want to just do the minimal, but they could have just done the minimal. Um, is anybody going to burn their seats or shut the TV off? Because you mentioned that Hulk Hogan died. No, because every wrestling fan that's watching your show on Wednesday night knew who Hulk Hogan was
Right.
and had seen the stories and knew about it. And what were they looking for? And if you put up a
Yeah.
graphic and you have Excalibur or Tony or somebody on Wednesday, just say, of course, a lot of people are thinking about and remembering, Hulk Hogan and his legendary status. And even though he never competed here in AEW, he obviously is a huge part of the landscape of professional wrestling in this country and around the world, and we honor his passing. That's all you needed to say,
Right.
and that's basically what Tony said on Saturday. They should have said it on
Do you think
Wednesday.
Tony went in business for himself, or he had
Shivani?
approval to do that?
No, he had
Yeah.
approval to do it because the way it was framed. They went from a 2 shot to a 1 shot. They zoomed in. They had the
Oh, okay.
camera.
Yeah.
Originally, it was he and Nigel, and then they pushed in tight, and it became Tony Schiavone on the 1 shot. So that was exactly what he was. Yeah, that
I
was
don't think Tony
scripted.
would. He doesn't want to go in business for himself because he wants to keep that little lush job, huh?
I guess. And it did was are they worried about the feelings of the fans? A comic Joe sends a comment. He's had a disdain of Hogan for a while. He even said he was banned from AEW for life a few years ago. Well, so was Vince Russo. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. But you can hate the sinner, but you can hate the sin, love the sinner. You
You
cannot
can hate
argue,
Hogan all you want, but you cannot deny
can't deny it.
what he did for this industry.
Yep. No one that I spoke to this week, and I give advice to other promoters all the time. When a newsworthy event happens in pro wrestling, use it as your conversation to get in the door. When John Cena turned
Yeah.
heel, I was like, this is what you should be talking about because everybody knew about it, or
Yeah.
they know John Cena, and it's like, oh, wow, he did? I didn't even know he was back, however the conversation would go. But
Yeah.
everybody that I spoke to in the second half of this week, and I talked to a ton of people, and
Right.
especially today at the comic book store, was Hogan. And uh, no one said, "Oh, what a racist piece of crap," blah, 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 blah. Everybody was like, "Oh, wow. Like a part of my
Yeah.
childhood died," or "Man,
Right.
I can't
I've
believe it."
seen that a lot.
Three and three in a week, they're kind of grouping everybody together, which is fine because they're three celebrities. Um, but no one went out of their way to say, "I'm glad he's dead. Oh, I hated that
Right.
guy. What a racist." Blah, 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 blah. That's
Yeah.
social media muscles. Tony Khan
Yeah.
should have done the right thing and
Right.
just paid respects
Come
to the
on,
man.
Tony.
Whatever.
Dropping
Then
the
he did
ball
it as
again.
then he did it as a reaction on Saturday. And it's not like he didn't have Shivani there on Wednesday because he did.
Yeah.
And even if you just put the graphic with his picture up, nobody's going to burn the seats. Nobody's going to do anything
Right. Yeah.
because you mentioned the fact that one of the biggest names all time in pro wrestling, and depending on some people's list, maybe the biggest
Yep.
star all time in professional wrestling, that he died.
Right.
You make mention of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? So,
Hey, speaking of John Cena, do you think he is in that category?
as I said his name, Casey, that thought crossed my head,
Yeah.
and I'd say no.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
He's close. He's like number 6. He's in the
I
six,
think what
seven
makes him
range.
close is all the Make-A-Wish and different things like he's done
Yeah.
like that. I think
More
that's why brings him up in there.
It's interesting, more for his outside the ring stuff than his in ring stuff.
Right.
He was, again, such a popular, just people would go crazy for John Cena. It's the
Right.
movies and the Hollywood work and all the Make a Wish stuff that has now set him kind of on his own thing. May not
Although
be
in
that.
another 10 years from now, it could totally change because he could, after his wrestling career is over, in the Hollywood and all that stuff, he could grow so much that where it would make a difference in people's, list.
And this opens. So and you're exactly right, because I think John is going to continue to grow as a person,
Yeah.
as a performer, as all kinds of things. I could see him getting like a serious acting role. I could see him, because now he's shown
Yeah.
some range and he could do some different things. And I have a feeling that
Right.
there'll be somebody that writes a script and it's perfect for him, and it's this vehicle to get John Cena some cred as an actor. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things, and I had a thought and it just went away, and I'm kicking myself now because I wanted to finish the John Cena point. Oh, um, so Eric Bischoff says that his Real Wrestling project is going to continue. Um, the star power of Hulk Hogan was going to be some of the driving force of that. This does open some projects now for people who there is no other Hulk Hogan in our lifetime other than Ric Flair, and I don't see Ric Flair being reliable enough to do this.
No. No.
But if you're a Randy Orton, if you're an Undertaker, if you're a who's going to be the guy to take that mantle and sort of be
Right.
the spokesman for different products and to be the showman and to be the different things. I don't know if there is another one. I don't know
Right.
if a network is going to, because wasn't Hogan the announcer for the reboot of Gladiators a few years ago?
Oh, the American Gladiators?
Yeah, wasn't it Hogan and Layla
Yeah.
Ali?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
I
type
was
of
in the
those.
I was involved in the American
And
Gladiators.
you were, so was I.
Yeah. Really? The
What'd
dinner
you do?
show? The dinner or
You
the
got in the dinner show?
Yeah, I was a contender a few times, and they're like, "Oh, man, he's just too big to be one of the contenders."
Wait, was that
And
when
they
I was
were
still there?
No, I think you were already gone.
Okay,
This is right before they closed.
gotcha.
And they're like, "You know what? they were talking to me. You're going to be the next gladiator. You're the next one on our list. So we're going to change over because you're just. I mean, I was beating their guys in the jousting and all that stuff, So they're like, yeah, we definitely want you.
Yeah,
And then
yeah. I was
then it
one of
just
the
did wah
hosts.
wah wah wah.
Yeah, I was
It
one of the
crashed and
hosts
burned.
for the dinner
Yeah.
theater show. That was a lot of fun.
Oh wow.
What
Yeah.
would your gladiator name have been, Casey Thompson?
Hmm. Pesticide Pete. No,
Pesticide,
that's my wrestling
potato,
name.
potato,
Yeah.
stiff. It's jazz, zap, laser, and
Maybe it could have been. Maybe it could have been Thor after
oh
my
god,
old friend.
Thor. Yeah, you would have been, or you could have just been Casey.
Yeah.
And then you just get up there and punch people for
So,
real. They got hot at me because we had so many people hurt, and I was like, and some of the games, some nights were blowouts, and I was like, come on, guys, let's work this a little bit. When you guys
yeah.
get to the wall, we could have as much as a 20-point swing, and the blue side is filling, is thinning out because they realize they're not going to get a prize. The gimmick was the winning side, red side over here, blue side over here. Whichever team wins, you get a prize. And everybody's like, "Yay!" And then at the end, every night we would say, because both sides were so great, everybody gets a prize. And everybody went, "Yay!" And what they got was a discount coupon to come back for another gladiator show. It wasn't much of a prize.
That
But
sounds
people
like an
didn't,
independent wrestling prize if I ever seen one.
and so they got hot at me for
Carney.
carnying it up a little bit. I'm like, why don't we work the wall? Because if we could have a
Yeah.
20-point swing, oh, I got pulled in the office, and whoever the executive producer was, he was hot. This
Oh
isn't
wow.
wrestling, that fake bullshit, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it's show business. Who cares?
Yeah.
And can the guys stop killing each other when they're trying to tackle each other for real? Because the training room is more full than the floor. We got more guys
Yeah.
hurt than we do contenders. Some nights they had to have contenders go back to back because whoever was supposed to compete on Thursday, or Friday had gotten hurt on Thursday, and now they can't work. And so okay, you
Oh
got to
yeah.
go again tonight. Oh man, I'm still beat up from last night. Well, sorry. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was, so they got hot at me for that. I just tried to make it a little more show busy.
Yeah.
We had Scott Armstrong come one night. That was fun. I gave boys free tickets. Come on down. Have some
Oh
chicken.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Scott and a couple other guys came. I can't remember who. I think Barry Houston was one. Whatever happened to that guy?
Wow, Barry Houston.
How about
Wow.
that name?
Yeah, that was a good buddy of mine. Todd.
He was
Todd Praymore
he was
was
a
his
good
name.
hand.
Yeah, he was really good. He wrestled in Mexico is with Art Bars when the machines or something like that
He
over
was a
there.
machine, really?
Love Machine,
Love
yeah, over
machine?
in yeah, Mexico
Wow.
with Art Bar. I remember working him once, and he was trying to pick up some girl in. I was wrestling. This is down in a Rick Ryder show down in Venice, Florida. And so I was chopping. He's like, and I was people like, "Whoa, does he owe you money?" Because I was like chopping him so much where I split his chest open, where he just started, bleeding and everything for real.
Ow.
And yeah, because he was trying to get sympathy to try to pick up some girl in the, the front. So I politely beat the shit out of him for him.
Wrong guy to need that. Oh. Casey, I need you to
I was
open up
buddies
on me.
with him
Oh,
though. He was I remember him working some Disney taping and brought a gun and
what?
yeah, I don't remember the whole story. I remember um bits and pieces of it. He brought a gun in or something and it blew up in his face, backfired on him because he got in all kinds of trouble.
Good
He was
Lord.
he was a good hand. He was good and come from a
Speaking
rich
of
family.
which, did he really?
Yeah, he had a wealthy
We needed
family.
that. I could see somebody like Taker, maybe DDP or Sting taking that spot. DDP definitely, Taker definitely. Sting, I could see it, but I don't know if he'd be interested in that. All right, let's go
Yeah.
because it's already 9:30 and I got to go to bed. I'm old.
Yes, sir.
I was out promoting today. Um, all right, so Of course, we want to thank everybody who has been tuning in, not just live, but also catching the replay, the episodes in full, everything up on YouTube, spread out across all of social media. Please like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know. And the shorts continue to be where a lot of people are getting glimpses into our show. We're live just about every Sunday night, right around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And Casey and I will give our opinions and our thoughts, with sort of the specter being a lot of great intel and insight from Casey's time as an enhancement athlete. By the way, one last thing, get your thoughts. Dustin Rhodes on social media this week talked about not using the term jobber anymore, that he thinks that it's a negative. So,
That's cool.
yeah. Um, we don't
I
say
know another guy.
jobber.
I
We're
had to
not
tell
afraid
this
of it.
story real quick before we go. I had to tell this story. There's another guy that does a podcast, and he's promoting on Facebook everywhere. Dustin Rhodes is coming on. Dustin Rhodes is coming on. I guess he's been talking to a Dustin Rhodes on Facebook, and
Oops.
it was someone who worked him.
Catfished him.
Yeah,
Damn
exactly.
it.
I
Damn it.
got a chuckle out of it. He's like, ah, I'll learn better from this.
Did he
I was
send
just
money
like,
to the guy?
oh, I don't know. I mean, mm, if you want to come on our show, we ain't paying you.
No. Hell, you could pay us. How about that? Um, then we no longer have the Nigerian prince scam, but I get the same spammy email that people want to have me on their podcast and will pay me $3,000 to be on their
Wow.
podcast. But it's poorly written, and the dollar sign is after the 3,000, and it's just the new
Oh,
scam.
you know what the new scam down here
What?
is that the Sun Pass, Easy
Okay.
Pass. You know,
Oh, we
you need
have
to
that
pay
here
your
too.
bill, or they're
Yeah.
gonna suspend your license. Meanwhile, you have to answer to a like a Hotmail or Gmail account.
Yeah, we have that here too. And again, these uh, phishing scams, smishing, they have all kinds of terms now,
Yeah,
are real and prevalent. So be careful. Um, Neither Casey nor I will ever contact you for anything, even if we need you. So don't ever worry about getting email from us. If you hear from us, it's fake.
exactly.
Unless we know you already and we have you in our phone, we're not
Yeah,
going to be reaching out to you. I got people to call this week. I got T-shirts to mail out, Casey. I'm a busy man.
there you go. That's a good thing, though. That's
I
a good
wonder if I'm.
problem to have.
I wonder if I'm going to get through. Like they're not going to think this number is. Who the hell is
No, what you
this?
should do is once you have a big amount of them, you
Yeah.
should have like a party line where you do one phone call for all of them.
Ah, yeah. Come on in.
Should have
And
read the disclaimer. I'm buying the T-shirt.
that's it. Um, by the way, I've been keeping an eye on the G1. It ain't. It ain't the G1. I mean, the guys are
Oh
working hard.
wow!
Attendance is down. They're drawing like half a house. It's rough. They've lost so
Maybe they
much
need to
star
bring
power
back Kevin Kelly.
to to help, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. They could bring back Gordon Soley from the grave, and it's not going to affect attendance. I mean, they're just lacking star power, and it just sucks,
Wow.
and it's sad. And then Gabe Kidd, who is
Yeah.
one of their future stars
Is he
on
still
the
out hurt?
rise, he's now out of the whole tournament.
Oh
So
wow.
I think they. I think they probably knew right away, but then wanted to wait till they got back to Tokyo and did an MRI.
Yeah, they
And
want to milk it to get a couple more houses too.
well, but it
Can't
it
blame them.
it doesn't matter. I mean, like a
Yeah.
building that we run all the time, the Sendai Sun Plaza Hall, great building. For the G1, 2,500 packed full. Um, and even when we would run it as we didn't really run it as a regular show. If we ran it as a tournament night, the best of Super Juniors, we would get 2,000 plus. They had like 1,300, and this is the
Oh
G1.
wow.
Ugh.
Yeah, still better than AEW.
Yeah, I know, but Tetsuya Naito's loss is a huge blow for the company, and the
Yeah.
Tanahashi, and it's a shame to see because it's Tanahashi's last G1, and everybody's working hard. They're busting their asses, and for half a house, it just sucks, especially for the G1. But
Yeah.
There you go. That's that. Okay, so that's going to do it for this edition. If anybody else famous dies, we'll let you know. And we'll be back next Sunday. All right, Casey? Let's do it again.
Sounds good. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So for Casey Thompson, I'm Kevin Kelly. We thank you very much for joining us for the In Ring Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.